Alright, this is now our third video for World War I beginning. This is now the U.S. mobilizes. Okay, mobilization. That is the big thing. Okay. Now, in 1917, Congress will pass the Selective Service Act of 1917. Now, why is this interesting? We're not technically in the war yet. Now, the Selective Service is essentially a draft. Authorized men 21 to 30, later on become 18 to 45, register for military service. It was by a lottery number system. Cards are assigned. 1 million registered on draft day, June 5th, 1917. And in total, 24 million registered and 2.8 million were drafted. We still use the system today. When you're 18, you register with the Selective Service. And if there were to have a draft, you might get involved. Now, because we have such a large standing army as well as reserves, very highly unlikely you're going to be chosen. Vietnam will be one of the last times we use the draft system. Now, mobilization. What is mobilizing for war? Mobilizing means just basically getting ready. When you go, it is called deployed. Okay? So mobilization is getting troops and supplies ready to go, converting industries, making sure things are working in order so that war effort will go on. Now, the first American unit over there was called the American Expeditionary Force, or EEF, AEF rather. They called them doughboys at that point, not because they made money. Doughboys, that's erroneous and false. Anyway, the doughboys are actually led by General John Pershing, the same guy who pursued Pancho Villa. Remember I said I kind of left that alone. He kind of left them and went and did this. And they looked like they were having a great time, and the whole purpose was to, again, drum up support for people to go and register for the draft so they would go. Okay? Now we have some art. All right, some really cool art. John Nash is going to make this picture called Over the Top. Now, what is over the top referring to? It's referring to over the top of the trench. And you can tell there's some people that are actually dead inside the trench. You can tell there's dead ones on top. You can tell there's a little bit of reluctance to come out of the trench to go into no man's land. So that kind of clashes with the whole stories the AEF were telling everybody. Now here is a second picture. This is from John Singer Sargent. This is called Gassed. These men have been hit with a probably poison gas that left them either temporarily or permanently blinded. Now that was a big thing. You throw gas in there. Now famously, one famous soldier was actually blinded by gas and saved by the other side, and that soldier was Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was actually gassed in an attack, and a young British soldier actually felt pity on him and got him to the Red Cross rather than kill him. And so it makes you really wonder how that man actually feels, and do we know that guy's name? I don't know. But there's gas nonetheless. Now, the last one is a song, and we're actually going to listen to the song in class and contrast it. But this was a big recruitment song. It was by George Conan, and it was called Over There. Over There, talking about the war. And again, drumming up support for people to want to go and fight. Now, to get them over there, we have the introduction of the convoy system. Okay, convoy, and you have it here. You have these little tiny boats. You're going to put them in between with these other big boats and try to basically get them through these minefields or U-boats to discourage them. Because once one was sunk, and this is before, guys, that you could shoot under the water. The submarines actually had to come up to shoot the torpedo. So if they came up, they might get one boat, but the other boats that are around are going to sink them. And so this was to ward off basically these U-boat attacks. Now, in Russia, right around the same time that we get involved, a man named Vladimir Lenin comes to power. This was actually known as the October Revolution, the Communist Revolution, and later on the Bolshevik Revolution. Vladimir Lenin is a socialist, and they do not like this, so the Tsar Nicholas, and his whole family are basically destroyed in the effort that they want to become socialist. Now the Bolshevik Revolution, there you have it, right? The Tsar was there. It's between the Reds and the Whites. It lasts for a little while. The Bolsheviks ended private land ownership. They created a new flag. They changed the name from Russia to the Soviet Union. And this does last for a long time there. going all the way up to 1920, which is the part that we're here with the war, okay? Now, for them to leave, you can't simply leave. You've been fighting, right? So we have the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, all right? In it, that land you see there in orange is actually given to Russia. That is modern Poland, okay? And I bring that up because one of the first places Hitler will go and take is Poland, and this is why. Okay, he basically felt it was his. Hitler has a childish mentality about him. There you go. Now, some other words we need to find. The first is casualty. A casualty is not only killed, but also wounded, put together. So if they say someone was a casualty, and this is done more or less for propaganda purposes, because if you say there's 80 casualties, people automatically think 80 people died. But it could have been 2 people who died and 78 people who are wounded. But nonetheless, again, it is to make them they see that as much, much worse, or however you look at it, okay? Lastly, we have propaganda. Now, propaganda is done in a manner so that people fall behind the war. And an interesting twist here, most propaganda is actually created by the U.S. government or the government themselves. Now, we have a lot of things going on here, and this is a propaganda from the German perspective. But one of the big propaganda figures we have is Uncle Sam. This is when he first makes the scene. And there's an interesting story about that, but again, that's on the World War I videos if you want to see the extra ones from the museum, so you've got to watch out for that one. Really cool story, all right? That is it for World War I Begins.